Attention campers, Camp Snoopy will be opening in late spring 2024, and vertical construction has already started. Hello, everybody. Alongside Don Helbig, I'm Ryan Sir, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans because that's who we are and that's who we care about.
That's right. All right, Camp Snoopy. It's news keeps on rolling in. It looks like we got some progress going on.
Yeah, we've been seeing several updates that have been put out there by the Kings Island team about the updates that are happening there. Vertical construction, as you mentioned, has begun on the station for the Snoopy Soapbox Racers. I think that's going to be a really fun roller coaster for families with young children. Uh, it's going to be great, well themed. So that's exciting to see.
The first two pieces of track for Snoopy Soapbox Racers completed its more than 4,000-mile journey to Kings Island from coaster designer Vekoma's production facility located in the Netherlands. Delivery on the remaining nearly 600 feet of track will continue over the next few weeks.
In Vekoma, they've got great hats, don't they?
Great track and great hats. That should be their company motto.
Outside of Snoopy Soapbox Racers, this brand new family area in the kids area at Kings Island, it's going to include Beagle Scout Acres, an area where kids can run, crawl, play, or relax with the family in a shaded, comfortable space. We know that families are going to like that. Camp Snoopy is going to be located on the south end of Planet Snoopy, between the entrance to Rivertown and the walkway to Soak City and the park's picnic grove. So back in the back of the park, it's great to see, something that's going to be really vibrant and exciting back there.
Yeah, in addition to Camp Snoopy, they're gonna kind of reimagine a couple of the previous rides. So Flying Ace Aerial Chase will be renamed Woodstock's Air Raid, or sorry, Air Rail. Woodstock's Air Rail.
I like that. I think that's an appropriate name for that attraction.
Okay, what do you think about Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, becoming Charlie Brown's Rushing River Log Ride?
I like the fact that log gets back into, because originally called the log flume, it is a log ride. I think you know what you're talking about with that name. You can visualize what this experience is with that name. So I think they nailed it with this one.
Do you think that they'll do any kind of retheme with it as far as set pieces or anything like that to accommodate the name change, or will it just be a name change?
I don't know that you need to. I mean, it has that campy look anyway to it. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they'll, polish some things up, but again, I really like the name because it's when you have a name with that log right in it, you're already telling people what it is and it's identifiable. And I think you just have that vision that this is going to be fun, something you want to do.
Okay, and then Woodstock Gliders, which should have been the Flying Beagles, as many people pointed out. That's going to become Flyers. Franklin's Flyers. Now, you and I both are big fans of Franklin, so I'm kind of
We
excited
are.
about that.
I think it's long overdue that Franklin gets a ride named after him in the Kings Island Kids area. He's a very popular character. Whenever Franklin's out in the park, there's always, a line to get pictures with him. They had the nice setup that they debuted last year for the character meet and greets. Same situation when Franklin's there, very popular. I love it. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's gonna the renderings, the pictures and things you see. It just looks fun.
I agree. And there's still a lot of opportunities to integrate other characters that haven't been wholly represented. For example, they are adding a new restaurant, and I can't remember if they've told us what the name is, but I hope they serve beans and it's named after Pigpen.
Is Pigpen's Mess
Oh, it is
Hall?
Pigpen.
Pigpen's
I
Mess Hall,
was
yeah.
completely making a joke, but yeah. So Pigpen, the one that's notorious for either smoking or stinking. I'm not sure what the cloud around it means.
The other thing about Pigpen is another character that hasn't been out a lot, but there has been the sporadic times where Pigpen is available and again immensely popular. But I like the fact that it's not everything's named after Charlie Brown,
Yeah, that gets
not
a
everything's named after Snoopy. So I like the fact that Pigpen has an attraction named after him, and you think of food and the mess and everything. I think it's appropriate.
yeah, and some of the stuff is kind of like stretching, but other stuff is creative. Like Brown's wind up with the little swings. I think that was kind of stupid, but kite eating tree I think is kind of creative because I totally see that
It's
with that
fun.
ride. Um,
Yeah.
so they it was the Kings Island team put out this blog about how vertical construction had begun, and I assumed that they were installing the track pieces, but it seems like It's m
It's more the station.
right, it was, about 18 inches of, foundation work, but I always thought of vertical construction being like steel in the ground, but I guess that's neither here nor
That's
there.
coming. That's coming. Like I said, they've got the first couple of pieces of track, that have arrived. By the time this episode runs, there could be a couple more pieces there. They could actually be starting to install some of those pieces. But yeah, I mean, it's you start somewhere, and they're starting with the station there.
So I feel like I ask you this every single time that we talk about this, but clearly their goal is to get back the golden ticket award. Has your thoughts changed on that at all? Do you think that they're going to get it with
Well,
this?
what I'm going to say is this: will it be worthy of the golden ticket? All these things they're doing, if it just looks half as good as the renderings, it's gonna. The kids area has always been outstanding. The kids area at Kings Island will never be better than it is this year after all these new additions open. So when Camp Snoopy opens, whether what they say late May, right? So the kids area is going to be the best it's ever been. It had won that golden ticket, for years. It's, I think 17 straight years at one point. It had won the golden ticket for the best kids area. It might have all. It's got all the elements in place to be the best kids area in the world, but it's going to come down to the promotion of it, how much awareness there is for it. You got to get outside the backyard with it. You're not going to get votes from Cincinnati and Dayton, enough votes to win it. So I think it comes down to how well the park does in terms of getting the stories out there about it, reaching a wider audience with it, letting people know how fantastic this kids area is. And if they can do those things, then they've got a shot.
If they can do those things, yeah. My thought with that is it's going to hinge on a lot of things. If it's open and it's reliable and it's ready to go by the time the ACE Spring Conference comes, that could garner a fair amount of votes.
Well, that'll help. There's again, we're talking about getting outside your backyard. You have people from, I don't know how many different states are going to come to that. I'm imagining,
Dozens, yeah.
25, 30, and you're going to have from outside the country, it's going to come to that spring conference. So in that respect, you're going to get the word out there. You're going to have people that can be those traveling sales, people for you outside of Southwest Ohio. So you need that, but you need a lot more than that. You got to be able to sustain it. You got to be talking about this not only in May, but June, July, the voting begins, and you've got to be able to get how good this kids area is, how good Camp Snoopy is, you've got to be able to get that in front of the right people that live outside your market, those who cast those votes. So there's a lot involved with it, but if you can get it outside the backyard, like I said, all the elements are in place, to garner those votes enough to win. But it comes down to just creating that awareness. That's how you get the votes. Is everybody knows who and what you are and what it is and those types of things. Everybody's heard about it. Mystic Timbers, it was a ride that everybody in North America knew what that ride was before it even opened, before it ever gave its first rides. It was the most anticipated new ride in the world that year because there was so much noise about it with that the teaser part of it about what's in the shed. Everybody was talking about it. So by the time it was ready to give its first rides, it was already in that position where, nationwide, everybody had heard of Mystic Timbers. And that's what you kind of got to do here with Camp Snoopy in the kids area. You got to make sure that everybody knows, how good this kids area is.
Do you think that it will skew the results in any way that Good Gravy is opening 2 hours away and it's a very similar ride?
Well, I think it's a bigger picture than just a ride, Ryan. I think it's the whole kids area. It's not going to be, not one ride is going to win that for you. So I think it's the whole kids area. It doesn't help that a similar ride is, opening, those 2.5, 3 hours away from you. Um, but I think for you're going to get some different guests, going to each of those parks. So I don't know that you're going to have, everybody's already ridden it, before Kings Island opens. That's not going to be the case. So Holiday World, will open it first, but that's not everybody riding that before they even get to Kings Island.
Yeah, and I worry about the word of mouth situation because if Holiday Worlds opens first, I'm not sure when Hollywood Nights is. Uh, but if it's in May this year,
Right after Memorial Day.
okay, so that'll be after the
Hmm.
ACE conference. Because I'm trying to think if I'm wondering if one of the two rides is ridden first, if that would make someone an impression of the one at Kings Island's better, so that's a better kids area, or they ride Good Gravy. It's like this one's good, but Good Gravy's better. I'm not saying that either one is a valid argument, but I'm saying I'm just trying to walk through the thought process of
Yeah.
the average person of how they might think about this.
Now I know this is a Kings Island show, but you got to tip your hat to the great job that the team at Holiday World has done in promoting that ride. I mean, it has been across the country, on news stations everywhere,
Mhm.
when they announced it and the updates. It's not just, getting posted on their website or on their social media channels. I mean, it's getting picked up, by news stations and everything outside the market. And those are the kind of things that you want to do.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree, and it's, yeah, hats off to them for that, and it's a conceited effort. It has to be done every day. And that's why oftentimes when it's kinda like, if your ride opens late or if there's a big car accident the day your ride opens and you can't get the news media out, if you write that off as an excuse, like, you shouldn't be in the job because there's opportunities. There's the 50,000th rider. There's a 100,000th rider. They're all gonna be in season 1 more than likely. And, just getting the story in front of more markets and more people, that's gonna sell tickets. It's gonna win you golden ticket awards. Anyway, I digress. Um,
Yeah, and the other thing you want to do if you're them, is, when Camp Snoopy opens, is have those testimonials. Here's what guests are saying about Camp Snoopy, and get that out there so it's not you talking about it all the time. Get other people to talk about it. It was the kind of things that were done with Mystic Timbers. It was done with Diamondback. Here's what people are saying. When the brew house opened, here's what guests are saying about the brew house. It wasn't the park saying this is the best place to have a meal. It was the guests saying it was the best place to have a meal. So that third party endorsement, you need that too. And I'm sure they'll do things like that.
so the other question though is, let's say labor's tight. They were closing a lot of Planet Snoopy an hour early last year. If you do that, even on the shoulder season, there's no way. That's gonna upset enough.
It's gonna be a little, yeah. It's definitely a dissatisfier. With that. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different factors involved there. But I think you're also looking at parks throughout the country are all dealing with the same thing when it comes to labor, and that it's tough to find people want to work now. So if that is one of the issues, if it is that there is a labor shortage, or is there the budgets where you can only have so many people working at a certain time, there's also that factor as well too. But yeah, I mean, I think it's got to be full throttle with the kids area. Everything's got to be open, I think, or you know I think you'll get dinged a little bit on the sentiment for how good the kids area is if not everything is open all the time.
I'm telling you now that if, especially if it's like long term, like it was last year, um, if they start closing it at 9, the only impression is this stinks. They close it early. That's going to be a problem. But the time to beat is Wildwood Grove, and they're not going to close Wildwood Grove an hour early. In fact, Dollywood is known to stay open later if the park is busy.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. And they that kids area there at Dollywood, phenomenal. I mean, it is very well done. They've got some great attractions. Um, you know, Big Bear Mountain. What a fantastic coaster that is.
mhm,
So it was winning awards before they got that coaster, and that just kind of really cemented them as the kids park. With that coaster because everyone can do it. Everyone wants to ride it again. But you got the setting there too. That's tough to beat. When you're in the mountains like that. I mean, it's everything's just beautiful with that. It's going to be a hard one to beat, but with what Kings Island has done with their kids there, what they're planning to do here with Camp Snoopy, the elements are in place where your kids area does not take a back seat to anyone.
completely agree. We shall see what happens. All right, move on to the listener question. This is Mark from Batavia. Why doesn't Kings Island do a winter chill out like Cedar Point? It would be like coaster stock and sell out in less than 10 minutes. That's a good question, Don. I never really thought about that.
Timing.
Of course.
No, I mean, no, seriously. I think you look at when Cedar Point is doing theirs. It's in February. January is a month where you're transitioning from Winterfest, trying to get that all cleaned up, and everything. You're competing then with Cedar Point if you try to do it in February, or even early March with that. you're trying to get the park ready again in March. So I mean, I think it really does come down. It's tough with timing. I know that it had been discussed during my years working there. You know, something we wanted to do, but it was just something that, where do you slot it in to make it work?
Absolutely. Yep. Always timing, right? Cool. Awesome. Well, Camp Snoopy, late spring 2024. I'm Ryan Sir, along with Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.